We good? Okay. Good afternoon. I'm going to say a very brief couple of words. The county executive, Mayor Mironoff and Mayor Gusiora will as well, and then we'll throw it open for a couple of questions. A very good, I thought, very frank budget discussion. This is our 6th this year, although we did some of these last year, but we're being much more, I think, structured this year in making sure we get around to all corners of the state. I thought it was a very good discussion. I laid out the general pillars of our budget, talked a little bit about, which I will in a second, about the more recent increased revenues in this fiscal year. And then we talked about some of how that's specific to Mercer County and how we see the state. We've got a great collection of mayors, legislators, freeholder, director, county executives, so this is a great lineup. And we had a very frank discussion about school funding, 2% cap, energy tax receipts, affordable housing. I thought it was a good back and forth. And so I want to thank everybody on a busy school day afternoon that you all were able to join us. I want to say something real quick on the millionaires tax and property tax relief. Yesterday and today, Treasurer Liz Moy, and I have to say this with great pride, a Mercer County daughter and former legislator, former chair of the party, the Democratic Party. Treasurer Liz Moy updated legislators on our fiscal situation, and she made it clear that our administration's goal to provide even more direct middle-class property tax relief relies on the passage of a millionaire's tax. Last year, I said that when I wanted to pump an additional, beyond what our budget assumes that we presented 2.5 months ago, an additional $250 million into direct property tax for relief for the middle class. That simply can't happen unless we have the millionaire's tax. Even with the increased revenues we project without the millionaire's tax, we're only going to be able to fund property tax relief at the levels we originally outlined in March. Without the millionaire's tax, we're stuck. Under my predecessor, and this has to be said, the legislature passed the millionaire's tax 5 times, knowing that it would be vetoed. They did it because they said that middle-class New Jerseyans needed property tax relief, and standing up for tax fairness was the best way to do it. I agree with them. Nothing has changed except for one pesky detail, the party of the governor. Our middle class needs direct property tax relief more than ever, and the millionaire's tax is the way to truly deliver for them. The millionaire's tax is the right thing to do today, just as it was in 2010, 11, 12, 14, and 15, except now there's a governor who will sign it. With that, we'd love to turn things over to the county executive, Brian Hughes.
Thank you very much, Governor. I'm proud that you came out today and talked to the elected officials directly. We have a lot of questions. We had a very energized discussion about housing and taxes and the way we move forward here in Mercer County, about our educational system that's moving forward day in and day out. And we want to thank the governor for coming. Thank you.
Thanks for having me, Brian. I appreciate that. Mayor Mironoff, East Windsor, thanks for hosting us.
Sure. My pleasure. Welcome to the East Windsor Senior Center, a pride and jewel in our community. So we want to express our gratitude to Governor Murphy for coming out. It was a terrific opportunity to have a direct exchange on issues that are important to us as mayors, and we were appreciative of his engagement and his open-mindedness. We discussed, among other things, the positive impact that the adjustments in the school funding formula have had on towns in Mercer County, so a positive in property tax relief for our taxpayers. We also discussed very candidly some of the other challenges that mayors and municipalities have. We indicated and expressed our strong support for the reinstatement of the 2% interest arbitration limit, which has assisted towns in helping to keep property taxes at a lower level and is a big chunk of our budget, so it's an issue that is really critical to us. We also had a very robust exchange about affordable housing and some of the challenges that we have experienced as towns. We certainly support the idea of affordable housing, and we're all willing to participate, but the existing system, which doesn't have legislative structure and methodology and tools, has become a very challenging and very expensive proposition for municipalities, and we would like to see some reforms and some changes there. Talked about the continuing diversion of energy tax receipts to towns and how we can hopefully work together, and we're very optimistic in working together to come up with a system that those property tax relief funds, which were intended for municipalities, are over time restored. We had an opportunity to learn about some of the budget details and goals and some of the impacts that they would potentially have on us, and some of the goals that the governor has going forward in this year's budget and for the state, which was a very positive and very informed discussion. So we're really appreciative. Thank you for being here and sharing with us and giving us the chance to share our thoughts.
Thank you, Mayor. May I read?
Governor, I don't think what should be lost on here is that it was a great bipartisan discussion as well. Anytime you see Paul Anzano and David Freed on the same page is a good thing, especially for Mercer County. What I really found encouraging is that my colleagues support the capital city and make sure that it's a vibrant and healthy system and city, and that it won't get lost in the budget. One of the things that Trenton supports is the millionaire's tax. It will help be good for the economy and the budget, but also be able to give real property tax relief back to taxpayers from Trenton to Princeton. So we're in favor of this discussion, keeping it on a bipartisan level, and thank you for your interest in Mercer County.
Thank you, man. Also, it needs to be said, Reed alluded to this, and this is a real testament to the opportunity before Reed Gasora and all the leaders in Trenton, that several mayors from other communities said it was important to them that Trenton get back to where we all know it can be and it will be. I thought that was a great part of our discussion today. Unless anyone's got any, unless you thought we hit a discordant or left anybody on the beach, I'm just going to throw it up at questions. Michael, do you want to kick in? Well, a mixed reaction, but I certainly don't disagree with him on medical marijuana and expungement. But the devil will be in the details. I've said, let me just go back on medical. My predecessor gummed that regime up. We were one of the first in America to have a medical marijuana regime. I think in the first couple of days, literally, we started to open that regime up in the state, and it has been opened up meaningfully. And when I say open up, many more thousands of folks, I think it's at the rate of 3,000 a month, are participating. And importantly, the list of afflictions that allow you to be eligible to be in that system has grown. And it's turning out exactly as what we had hoped. Having said that, we're going to run out of product. We're going to run out of, we got a supply and demand imbalance that I've been very clear about. And so I've been holding back, in particular since March, when we came close and almost got the adult use, medical, and expungement done. We missed by a couple of votes by all accounts. So that is something that we welcome. The expungement piece, clearly I got to this because of social justice. I mentioned this to you. You've heard me say this many times. This was not easy for me with 4 kids who are now 21, 19, 17, 15. I got there because we have the widest white, non-white gap of persons incarcerated in America. And so the expungement piece of that is enormously important. And what we came close to achieving a couple of months ago had a historic, not just expungement, but vacating of sentences of folks in the system today, which would have been historic. So I'm all in conceptually for that. I guess the devil's going to be in the details, because the medical marijuana bill actually informs itself from the adult use bill, and that's going to have to, I think, be addressed, and as well as the expungement bill not only informs itself from the adult use marijuana bill, but I'm not clear based on what was discussed this morning, and admittedly I've been running around and I haven't had a chance to clarify it. Are we expunging something in the past that is still illegal today? And I would just remind everybody that 600 people this week will be arrested, plus or minus, depending on the time of the year, but plus or minus 600 people will be arrested for low-end, for marijuana offenses. 450-ish of them will be of color. So that reality is not going away. The bad guys will still run the business. I've always thought that eventually, if we couldn't figure it out legislatively, and folks, if you're hearing this for the first time, it must be said it's hard to do it legislatively, I admit. One state in the history of our country has done it, and that's Vermont, and we're a lot more complicated than Vermont. So I accept it's more complicated. It's always been a default to go to a referendum and ask the people. But again, I heard this myself this morning, and I'm still trying to digest the pieces. Please. I won't go as long on my answers as I just did there, I promise you.
I'm hoping that you do.
Okay.
I've been chasing you all over the state as you've been running around behind
I shook hands with you this morning.
As you've expressed, and you just expressed again, that you really did not want to do this by asking voters. Are you less concerned now that you feel like the legwork has been done, or do you feel like this is kind of a starting from scratch?
I mean, I haven't had a chance to really think about that to give you a crisp answer. I'm less focused on the legwork than I am on the 600 people who are going to get arrested this week, where it's still illegal. Our kids are still exposed. The bad guys run the business and make all the money. And it's largely a gateway drug because when they open their coat up, they've got a bunch of things on offer. So that's the biggest concern that I continue to have. Brent, I think, is that you back there?
Yeah. Are you still going to move forward with your plans to expand medical marijuana? Are you going to wait for the
To be determined, Brent. We have to. I've made no secret that I've been holding back an enormous demand and need, and in some form or another, we're going to have to sooner than later. We have no choice. And I think you had heard me say when we came close in March that if there was a real shot in May, that we would hold off as long as we could, and May sounded reasonable. We're now in the middle of May, so we're going to have to do something.
And he said that, Sweeney said today that he partially blamed this on you saying that you were going to expand medical pot.
I reject being blamed for trying to help citizens out who have nowhere else to turn, whose lives are at stake or quality of life is at stake. And I don't know if this has happened to the Senate president, but it certainly happened to me where somebody's walked up to me and told me that I've changed their lives, that we've changed their lives, a veteran in particular with PTSD. So I don't think that's, I wouldn't call that blame. This is my responsibility as governor. Daniel? So I think I'd make two comments, and one comment you won't be surprised by because I've made it many times, but there's another one that I feel like I should also add to this. The comment you won't be surprised by, I think this is a clear choice. Either you're defending either you're defending income tax relief for 19,000 millionaires, and I don't begrudge them, by the way. This is America. They've succeeded. God bless them. I want them to pay a little bit more. Either you're defending 19,000 millionaires or you're on the side of middle-class property tax relief. That's the clear choice here. Black and white. No more complicated, not gray. Black and white. The second point, which is I think just as important and I have not made, is I'm not the governor of this state from May to June 30th. I'm trying to set this state up. The Russians are listening. I'm trying to set this state up for the long haul, something that we haven't been very good at historically. We've lived from pillar to post, robbing Peter to pay Paul, to put it a different way. So yeah, we've had a good April. By the way, from a lot of revenue sources that are one-off revenue sources in a good economic cycle. The millionaire's tax was cut, I think, in 2011. So that's 8 years of probably about $500 million a year. I'll be conservative. That's $4 billion that we could have had cumulatively to address our challenges, whether it's property tax relief or pension obligations or what NJ Transit you pick. So I'm happy we're having a good year financially. I'm on the side of middle-class property tax owners and relief for them, and I'm on the side of running the state for the long haul. Please, Elise and then Dustin.
Senator Stevens also said that he doesn't want $250 million or so to be put into the rainy day fund. He said that money should be spent on current needs or should be put in surplus.
I did not hear what the Senate President said. This is statutorily required. This is formulaic, and we have to do it. So that's this year. The money, the $250 I'm talking about, is next year's budget for property tax relief for the middle class. Dustin, I can see you over there. You all assume very interesting positions today. I just want to say that.
On transparency, you're still taking advantage of Choose New Jersey, which doesn't have to disclose donors. You benefit from Redirection New Jersey, and on Monday, you conditionally vetoed the most significant transparency campaign finance reforms in over a decade.
I missed the second one. Choose New Jersey, did you say?
First, Choose New Jersey, still using that. They don't have to disclose their donors in detail.
Okay.
Redirection New Jersey, you benefit from that. How do you square that with what you said about wanting to be more transparent with administration?
So I've never been asked about Choose New Jersey, and I think if you looked at who's on the board, you could get a pretty good sense of who the donors are, would be my guess. That would be my advice to you as a journalist. That's probably a high correlation between their donors. Okay, I actually didn't know that, so I didn't realize that. I was sent a bill that was unconstitutional. My job is to sign bills that are constitutional, and I reject completely the premise that this bill got worse in terms of transparency. I think it is meaningfully better in terms of transparency and good government, and it is constitutional as opposed to the bill that was sent my way. Please.
Senator Sweeney was in fact very sharp in his criticism of your handling of the recreational marijuana lead up to what was a vote and now is not a vote. And he felt that you did not do enough to sway votes of Democrats and other members of the state Senate to get this to pass. He felt he had done it, had to do it alone.
Right. That's the first time he said that, because he said to me privately on many occasions that he appreciated enormously my leadership and help on this. And I thought it was a very good team effort among the Senate President, the Speaker, and myself. We came close. We didn't quite get there. We had it, I think, in one chamber. We came close in the other. That's the first time I've heard him say that. But life goes on. Michael, great job the other night, by the way. It's a good question. I haven't had a chance really to think about it because I just heard it a short while ago and I've been running around. So I'm not sure what the political calculation is, but I would come back to something I said earlier. I do know this calculation. As long as it's illegal, 600 people a week are going to get arrested, 450-ish or more are persons of color. That will add to it what is already a yawning inequity in our criminal justice system. I think with that, Michael, one more and then we're going to wrap it up. You won't.
Why did a reformer like you strike out against greater transparency in these political?
I think the premise. I mean, I think I'm close to both of those guys, and I appreciate conceptually their passion about this issue, which I share. I fundamentally don't agree with them in terms of what they sent me versus what I sent back. What they sent me was both unconstitutional, and what I sent back was stronger, not weaker. I don't agree with the premise. Let me say one other important thing, though. I think Senator Singleton said this. It's possible they both did, and I want to reiterate this. I have a spirit of goodwill on this. So I'm not looking to, I want to get to a good place on this, They said, I believe, that they're prepared to find some compromise and some common ground. Count me in as well. I'm prepared to do that and have been from day one. Thank you all so much for the press schlepping here. Mayor Mironoff for hosting us, county executive, to the mayors, to the legislators, freeholders. A deep appreciation for the time. Great discussion. Let's keep the lines open. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great to see you.